The 2025 fantasy football season is in the books. All the winnings have hit the bank accounts. All the new equipment's been purchased. But guess what? Dynasty fantasy football doesn't sleep for anybody, and the homework starts now. Producer, hit that button. Welcome to another episode of the Dynasty Pulse right here on FSAN, Fantasy Sports Advice Network, and on terrestrial radio 101.5, Talking West Tennessee. We are the finest collection of knowers of ball in the industry. There's stiff competition out there, but we're stiffer. I am Jameer Bigz. We got Grindberg in the building. Schultzy's over there pushing the buttons. We got Coach Gianti rhymes with Chianti. And Chev down there shilling for Big Pineapple. How you guys doing?
Awesome. Great.
Sweet. We got an award show to do. 2025 is past us, and we're starting to dig into the 2026 rookie class, starting to talk about dynasty values. Let's take a look back. Let's do a retrospective where we look at the 2025 performances and then go ahead and award some players some things and give some hints for what to expect in 2026. What are the ideas that we have this second week of January before everything gets started in 8 months from now?
Totally. We got 8 awards to hand out today, and we don't know how they're going to go. We're going to vote, and we're going to go in order here. So I'll explain what the award is. Schultzy will bring up the table of contents, and everybody can just follow along. We'll try and, produce some evidence for our argument to persuade our, co-host to vote within our means. I'm going to present the guys, the awards, and there's always going to be an other person in case there's somebody that I didn't mention on the show sheet that you may feel strongly about, and then we can vote on that afterwards. So without further ado, let's bring out the first award. Schultzy, let's get this show going. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Breakout Player of the Year. Now, this award goes to the player whose dynasty value truly surged in 2025, the ones whose growth wasn't just a flash in the pan, but potentially a real long-term trajectory. So let's talk about these guys. The first one is Wan'Dale Robinson. He took a big step forward in 2025, 92 catches, 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns, his first 1,000-yard season of his career. He was obviously the beneficiary of Malik Neighbors going down, but he's been a contributor even last year, gaining a lot of targets. And, he turned those targets this year into some production. The next guy I have to talk about is Michael Wilson. He emerged as a legitimate fantasy factor this year, finishing 78 receptions, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns for the Cardinals. That level of production in that pass game, it wasn't just elite, and he would get it without Marvin Harrison for stretches. He pushed Wilson into the top tier role, and next year's going to be an interesting thing. Is this a flash in the pan? That's going to be a discussion here. And then the next guy, Caleb Williams, second year in the NFL. His season was more than just an improvement in my eyes. He threw for about 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, added rushing value, setting a franchise passing record along the way. That kind of production in a QB heavy position, dual threat capabilities here. Great stuff here from Caleb Williams. And then if there's somebody else you feel strongly about, guys, feel free to put their names forward. But Bigz, I'm going to ask you first. Who is your vote for the Breakout Player of the Year?
Well, I don't think that there was a bigger breakout in the entire fantasy space than George Pickens. We had George Pickens finishes at 39, wide receiver 30, and wide receiver 42 before he managed to get into that Dallas Cowboys offense in a Dak Prescott boom year, and he finishes as PPR wide receiver number 5. There were a lot of us here that understood the George Pickens talent, have been talking about it for years and years, and this is the year that it finally paid off, and he has a top 10 finish. I see that repeating over the next couple of years. He's going to get a bag this offseason, whether it's he stays with the Cowboys and he's in a good situation with Dak and CD, or he like takes over as wide receiver one somewhere else. I think he firmly entrenched himself into the every year top 10 conversation, and his value is sky high right now.
Love the call, Bigz. That's a guy that obviously has huge upside here, and that's a huge breakout. I mean, he broke out last year, but this year is like a monster breakout. So I think that that's a good call. Schultzy, what do you got on the slate here? Who's your vote?
You know what? Bigz sold me. He's right, man. Like we talk about breakout, that positional rise is monstrous, and it's the talent we knew this guy had finally breaking out, right? Like I think this is right in line. I'm going with Bigz. Let's go with George Pickens.
Chev?
Oh, I am contractually obligated to shoehorn a player that I've talked about for months in this deal. I'm going with Jameson Williams.
Whoo!
Okay.
Do I need to? Oh, yeah. So from the second half of the season when Dan Campbell took over play calling, he and Amon-Ra St. Brown were pretty much in a dead heat. He scored the 6th most fantasy points at the wide receiver position, and that came with single-digit end zone targets, actual end zone targets, inside the 20 targets and actual end zone targets. So he's just doing it on the back of just, hey, I got that dog in me and I make big plays. So he finished with just 36 less yards than Amon-Ra St. Brown in weeks 9 to 18. He was slightly less efficient from a yards per route run perspective, but he was at 2.31 yards per route run when Amon-Ra St. Brown was at 2.63. So Amon-Ra St. Brown finishes with 1,400 yards. I mean, there was the most productive duo in the league. Like, he could take another step forward this year. And Jeremiah and I talked about this going into the second half of the season, and it was so much better than we ever could have imagined. So Amon-Ra St. Brown accumulates 863 yards. Jameson Williams is at 828, and he finishes with another, 7 or 8 touchdowns. And this was with an offense that was completely disjointed. And there was a zero burger in there for one of the games. So this is, to me, he has arrived. I said that this is next gen Tyreek Hill, and I think it's going to take another step forward next year.
Cool.
And we only wanted 3 spike weeks post right around that mid part of the season, and we got even more than that. What's funny enough, I know that zero burger greatly because it was a Thanksgiving game that he went off, and I was so confident. I bet all my happiness in the gambling streets on Jameson Williams on Thanksgiving, and it supremely paid off. It's funny. There's some corollaries between Pickens and Jameson Williams. I do want to go back to George Pickens because we love talking dirty about him in good ways. 106 targets. That was one main point that we made in the offseason repeatedly. On 106 targets, George Pickens produced 1,140 receiving yards. So we always posited, well, what if we give this guy 130, 140? Well, what does George Pickens get to what Bigz was talking about? 137 targets for 1,429 receiving yards. So the juice is there. It's funny enough, if I want to talk about a player, if it's Titero McMillan today, 70 receptions, 122 targets. Can we get 130, 140, close that gap? I think we can get 100 receptions. There's a pathway there. So Titero McMillan is already going to be a player who we're scooping on even higher volume version of Pickens and Jameson Williams. But I do want to get to something that's actually on the show sheet or in the beautiful graphic that was made here. I got a lot of love for Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams really cemented himself in this playoff run. He can go on with Ben Johnson, and the Ben Johnson year 2 ascension is out there. I love Caleb Williams, and in Dynasty, it's a beautiful thing because I can really see if you've got Caleb Williams inside your top 10 right now, what's to stop him from entering into the Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts territory? I really don't think there's much. And the ascension of there's Luther Burden. It's funny enough. People want to go off on Luther Burden, and I love him. Eye test is all there. Colson Loveland going off. Don't get too ahead of these Tyler Warren stands either, though. Tyler Warren, he can talk that talk. And since we're on radio, I'll just keep it at that politely. But it's funny enough. There are weapons galore all around Caleb Williams. DJ Moore, it's going to be $28 million. I think it's $35 million of a dead cap hit. DJ Moore, unless another team, the Bears want to take on some salary on the chin and proactively send DJ Moore off, it's going to be a little crowded in that receiver room for the Chicago Bears. But who is that good for? That is Caleb Williams. So we saw in pre-show, we talked about it's not all linear. And just because we didn't see the path rookie year for Caleb Williams, we may have been on Jaden Daniels year one. But all offseason, we talked about Caleb Williams being able to entrench himself and cut up tiers plenty. And he showed mass improvement. So both things can be true. You can be in on Jaden Daniels, but you can be greatly in on Caleb Williams. Just because Williams was anointed the one, it doesn't mean we can't have our ups and downs, ebbs and flows with him. To me, he's my breakout player of the year because of what we get positional value in Dynasty Streets. We play a lot of super flex formats, and those QBs are so deadly worth it. And try prying them off right now. Tight end liquidity. A lot of people, you have Trey McBride. Somebody has Brock Bowers. They think they have the best tight end in the league. You got Colson Loveland. Why are you acquiring or tearing up or down? I'm just going to ride with the guy that I got. People are going to convince themselves if they've got Kyle Pitts and Bretton Strange, hey, I can ride it out and get healthy elsewhere. But man, quarterback, good luck getting a quarterback, man. It's so tough. Cheapest time is in a startup and in a rookie draft. And if you got Caleb Williams, you've got an asset that you can sell for a haul. But why do it? Because you want to keep riding the train to the top. So I'm going to go with Caleb Williams, but I love the players being talked about.
All right, man. I love the call, and I'm going to agree with you there, Coach. I loved Caleb's breakout this year. So now, I'm not going to add more to what you just said. I'm right in agreement with you with just like how the positional thing works in Dynasty, and he's an asset that's young in a up and coming offense, and I just think that he's got a lot of years of longevity here. So he's gonna have a steady floor, and his ceilings are gonna spike week to week. So I love that call. So we got 2 for Pickens, 2 for Caleb. So Chev, this is a tough one for you. I'm sure you're gonna have to. It's George Pickens. All right, okay. So George Pickens is taking the Breakout Player of the Year award. So good call on that one, Bigz. Thanks for bringing him up on the show sheet. And let's get into the next one. This is the future face of the league. This is the award that isn't just about what happened in 2025. It's about who you trust to be the cornerstone dynasty asset for the next several seasons. We're talking about age, talent, role security, and trajectory that keeps rising. Number 1 is Jackson Dart. His rookie season, he drew 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, showing flashes of dual threat ability and poise under center in a rebuilding Giants offense. His receiving core, offensive line aren't perfect yet, but Dart's age, draft capital, and early NFL experience positions him as a long-term QB core piece in his development curve continues upwards. Now, next one up is Tetaroa McMillan. He debuted as a true number 1 target, hauling in over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, finishing the season as a rookie. And what a great production. He made immediate impact, and his elite size, playmaking ability makes him a blue chip dynasty asset in premium positions for years to come. And then the next one is Ashton Genty, one of the most discussed rookies headed into 2025, finishing nearly with 1,000 yards, rushing 5 touchdowns, contributing out of the backfield and in the passing game. And we know what the Raiders offense looked like. That offensive line was in shambles, quarterback situation in fluff, and Ashton Genty still came up big in some situations, especially when you thought of week 15. He had an incredible performance there, giving him a long-term dynasty appeal. And then another shot here. Who else may be on there? Maybe Harold Fannin Jr. is a guy that maybe could be in consideration. But Bigz, we'll start with you. You got anybody to throw in the hat, or are you going to go with one of your guys here? There's two of them on the screen that I know you feel really strongly about.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stick with the screen. You guys know how big of a Jackson Dart fan I am. I was very upset that the Raiders didn't figure out a way to make him the quarterback this year. But then what Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly did with that offensive line was just football terrorism.
Yep.
I'm gonna take Ashton Genty, and here's why. He was a very high value target coming into 2025. People spent a lot of draft capital, and he seemingly did not produce. He did finish as RB11 in PPR. He had a very prolific receiving game. But the big thing about Ashton Genty that I want to throw out there is that he had 1,321 total yards from scrimmage. 1,321 total yards from scrimmage. 1,021 yards after contact. So that man was hit for, if he had gone down every time he was hit, that's a 300-yard season. He had 1,021 yards after contact. What happens when he has a legitimate offensive line? What happens when a new coaching regime comes in and does a little fixing? Some of his offensive linemen ahead of him improve. Maybe they sign a free agent. You get a good offensive mind in there like Mike McDaniel or Clint Kubiak. Everybody's on the table right now. What is Ashton Genty's future ceiling? 1,021 yards after contact. Give me that.
Wow. Okay. I love that opportunity here. I'm still on the fence on who I'm going to go with. But Schultzy, it's your turn. Do you agree with Bigz? Do you got somebody else you want to throw in the hat here, or you got somebody on the screen you like?
No, I think the three on the screen are all great candidates. I don't blame anyone for voting any way here. Like I think there's a great argument to be had for any of the three guys we got on the screen. For me, I'm going to go Jackson Dart, though, man. I mean, Dynasty fantasy football, we're playing super flex mainly for the most part. It's pretty standard now, and rushing quarterback, man, like that's where the glory's at in our game, and that's why I'm going Jackson Dart.
Okay. Chev, who you got?
Oh, yeah. I'm going with the big pineapple.
Big pineapple. You're an enthusiast.
Yeah. Not only am I a client, I'm the player president.
There it is.
Yeah, I've got to go with Tedoroa McMillan. Jackson. So both of those guys are going to both very easily ascend into the top 5 of their position if they aren't. I mean, Genty was there. Jackson Dart has earned his way into it with his rushing ability, and if they land a quality offensive coordinator, it is Katie bar the door for Jackson Dart getting Malik Neighbors back and a competent offensive mind that's not actively trying to give him early onset CTE. But for me, it's Tedoroa McMillan. When we talked about him landing in that spot, I said that it was going to kind of stabilize Bryce, but it didn't. But even still, he finished with 122 targets, 70 receptions, over 1,000 yards. It took him a while to get a touchdown. It took him like 5 weeks to score a touchdown, but when he finally did, he scored 2 in a game. And they weren't, and I complained about this a lot, they are still not treating him like he's the best player on the offense yet. And once they make that shift, you're going to see a Drake London-esque rise. He's got all those tools. He's a big guy that moves like a small guy. And we've only unlocked like fractions of his game. So I believe in the next 2 to 3 years, he's going to finish as a wide receiver 1 overall in either total points or points per game. So my vote goes to Tedoroa McMillan.
Love it. I mean, you guys are all making really strong arguments for each one of these guys. Coach, are you going to split the difference here? Or are you going to maybe bring in another guy to complicate things a bit?
So I'm pro 100 receptions for Tedoroa McMillan next year. I'm going to be pounding that drum all off season, just a trajectory there. For me, this is a question of inside 5 years handle is going to be Ashton Genty. 5 and beyond, inside 7 to 10, I think you're going to have your shot at Jackson Dart. I love the points that Schultzy makes about Jackson Dart, that rushing upside. You have Cam Scadaboo, Malik Neighbors. Can you build something? Theo Johnson looks right, looks nice. I've heard beat reporters talk about the ideas of playing a bit like a Rob Gronkowski with that physicality. You got Cam Scadaboo, who's a battering ram. We need Jackson Dart. The thing is, he leans forward like he's trying to win a race and break the tape. And he needs to let up and get his body down and just understand, look, it's better to get the extra 2.5 yards, not the extra 5 yards, and get blasted. So as soon as Jackson Dart can figure that out, I think there's a long-term viability for him. But going back to Ashton Janty, he was 7th in receptions with 55. He already answered that call from college football because remember, it was like, hey, he's just going to be a rusher. How are we going to get the receptions? And he already showed it in year 1. Also 7th in carries. The opportunity share is there all day in spades. Number 1 in opportunity share for Ashton Janty. You get a non-criminal offensive coordinator. You get it was like nepotism. I just read something about the O-line for the Raiders where they needed guidance and they were looking around feeling like they weren't getting any coaching because of some maybe nepotism hires at the position. And at the NFL level, you still need that guidance and to push forward. And the beauty is with a turnaround O-line, a QB improvement, if we're talking about Fernando Mendoza, which I know Mike is very high on, and we have positive sentiments towards, you're looking at running this thing through Bowers, running it through Janty, and I want to be obese, not just overweight. I want to be obese on Ashton Janty next season, and we're going to take advantage of that dip. Yes, in the next 5 years, game breakers, we see Bijan Robinson is about to really, really take off. Like Tyler Algier out of the way. Nobody in this. It's going to be very tough to see a pairing of a player that the Falcons are going to take in this draft class that's going to be better than Tyler Algier. So if we get Tyler Algier out of the way, is full ham wheels up for Bijan Robinson. I see that path for Ashton Janty. It's just going to take some time and some betterment, improvement in this situation. So inside 5 years, which would be the life term of most running backs in their prime, give me Ashton Janty.
All right. So I'm going to complicate things a little bit here once again, because it's not cut and dry here. I love the argument for Janty, but for me in Dynasty, I have a hard time investing that much capital in a running back that early, especially now he's headed into his second year now. Playing it safer would be, taking a Tet because he's going to have a long career here and he's just about to take off.
I mean Tetaroa.
Yeah, sorry. And then for Dart, I have him highly and aggressively ranked for next year based off of like his situation upgrade. We know that Wandell's going to probably be a free agent and leave, and that leaves some draft capital here for maybe a guy, maybe like a Mekhi Lemon joining forces there, a nice slot position to accent Malik Neighbors, rushing upside here with Jackson Dart. I see him finishing next year probably as a top 5 quarterback. That's a bold prediction, but I'm going with Chev here, and I'm going to take Tetaroa McMillan based off of just the safety net there as far as longevity goes. I think he's going to be a staple in that offense for upwards of 10 years. Mike Evans-esque, if you will. I think he's going to be, a staple in the league, where some of these other two guys, their path to a longevity is probably 5 to 10 years, and where Ted is going to be capping. So I'm going to take that as what I saw this rookie year, and we're going to need maybe a tiebreaker here. So we got 2 Genties, 2 Tetaroas. So
let's table it and then see what happens throughout the offseason, because I reserve the right to change my answer if John Harbaugh and Todd Monken become the brain trust in New York.
Okay, so we had a Genty. So Schultzy, who would have been your tiebreaker anyway if we were to award somebody tonight?
I think it's probably Genty, only because of the generational prospect profile. Once that comes to life, I think that's going to be a story that's going to be right on the cover.
I think because it's going to be more scarce to get that hammer running back, that might inch it a little forward.
I mean, yeah, I'm on board with that 1000%.
Yeah.
I'm on StatHead, and I wanted to throw like a historical significance and check out like, hey, how many rookies averaged 60 yards a game rushing, which is about what Ashton Genty came out to this year, and and also accumulated 625 yards after contact, and the list is absolutely jarring. Would you like for me to share?
Sure.
Yes, please.
It was Jonathan Taylor, it was Nick Chubb, it was Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Najee Harris that have all done it from year 1 to year 2 as rookies since 2018. Now, I was trying to go back a little bit further, and I'll pull that up, and I'll probably just randomly like yell it out once I get StatHead to work properly. But yeah, I just I felt like that was like, I don't think people really understand how good Ashton Genty was. Like, me and Jeremiah are in a group chat, and people were saying some pretty ridiculous things about like, oh, I just don't see it. We're like,
who wasn't in that group chat was Will Anderson.
Yeah. Like, are you blind? Like, what don't you see?
Nobody watched the Raiders.
Yeah. I mean, like I watched, just some of his cut-ups just because I was like, hey, I don't understand why people are saying these things as though he's not getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. Like, I watched every touch from his rookie year earlier today, and there was a run where he got hit by 3 people, bounced off the first guy, bounced off the second guy, and spun off the third guy to turn a 3-yard loss into like a 3-yard gain. Like, I don't think people understand how good Ashton Genty actually is. And you guys have heard me say it a few times. The Todd Gurley paradox is one that I have learned from in fantasy. Him being absolutely dead in the water after a stellar rookie year with what's Mr. 500's name? Jeff Fisher.
Not to be confused with Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. And then he goes from Jeff Fisher to Sean McVay, and he's the most valuable asset in fantasy for 2 years. Like, I mean, that was a Hall of Fame. Like, he's super talented, guys. Mm-hmm. Super talented. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Once I get it all the way right, I'll talk about it again.
Sweet. Okay. So Genty
once
is
he gets all the way up, he'll have it.
He'll have it. Yeah, exactly. He'll firm it out. All right.
Whoa.
Let's get to the future face of the league appointed, Ashton Genty. Let's get into our next award. Okay. Now it's the Dynasty Bounce Back of the Year. I think this is, more so cut and dry, but this may be, more difficult than we thought. This award goes to the player who restored their dynasty value in 2025. Maybe not Travis Kelce, but he had a good year. He struggled behind that offense, but still managed 76 receptions, 851 yards, 5 touchdowns. Might not play next year, so his value may be done, but he was a bounce back. Now, the other guy, Christian McCaffrey, he missed much of 2024, injuries and questions on wear and tear headed into 2025. People were on the fence about him, not me, but he did finish with 1,200 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, 120 catches, 900 yards, and 7 receiving touchdowns. So incredible year, RB1 overall. And then Devontae Adams, what a season he had. 14 touchdowns, would have been a lot more if he finished the season, 800 yards, and incredible season, finished as a top 10 wide receiver. And then if there's anybody else that we might want to put forth here, but start with you, Bigz. Who's your vote for Bounce Back Player of the Year?
I can't not take McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the stellar year that we were hoping, and
he's my vote too. I can't be without that one. Schultzy, what about you? Who do you got?
Well, come on, man. You guys already know what I'm about to do, and it's Trevor frickin' Lawrence. Come on, right? This is the guy who just went QB4 on the season. He ran for 9 touchdowns. He was also the highest scoring fantasy quarterback ever throughout the fantasy playoffs. This is a guy who was dead in the water before the season started to most people in the community, and just finished QB4. Give me Trevor Lawrence.
That's a strong argument. I'm not going to go against that one. Chev?
That was going to be my vote too.
Trevor Lawrence. There it is. Okay. Coach.
So I would just say a player who is not here, who would have been here, I think, had he not gotten hurt, everything slowed down for him. And he was 1 or 2 games away from fooling another team into paying him. But it would have been Daniel Jones. But if was a fifth, this did not happen. Daniel Jones would have been on this screen. I love the Trevor Lawrence call, especially since I have him in the Grindberg Invitational. So suck it. And Christian McCaffrey, though, be the RB1 at 29 years old. It's crazy. He's going to go into his 10th season. And we're talking about he's going to turn 30. And you're like, how tough or difficult or hard on the body is this 30 that we're talking about on Christian McCaffrey? We just saw what he did, and he's the RB1. It's just phenomenal, a PPR cheat code. And it's like, hey, even if he comes down from the top, like how long can he be kind of dropping slowly, but still be better, or so economical of a pick still? So I think that bounce back is there. I'm going to give it, I think the part where it's a bounce back is the fact that Trevor Lawrence arguably almost never was. So what did he bounce back from? Are we talking about like he bounced back from college football and being like a generational prospect? So that's just the only, if I had to nitpick, I love what Trevor Lawrence did, but what's he bouncing back from? Like, hey, you just got here finally to where we wanted you to be. That would be my only like naggy thing that I would say on this category. The cool thing about McCaffrey, one last thing, the fact that he's done this with 2 different teams, just his phenomenal play with 2 franchises, because you know him so well as a Panther, and you're going to know him so well as a 49er. I think this guy's on the path to the Hall of Fame, and I think, how do we not, gentlemen, just one by one, are you clicking the button on McCaffrey in 2026?
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
The only way I won't is if there's any sort of nagging injury that he's dealing with over the offseason.
And that's what the bounce back.
Yeah.
That calf injury.
Yes. If there is no smoke in terms of him having some sort of injury, that's related to, his legs, I will get away, run away right away.
And I think for him, I think his price is going to be baked in redraft anyway. Like you're going to see Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs probably go ahead of him anyway. And that's kind of where my guess is he's going to finish probably next year if he can, stay healthy for the full season. I think both Gibbs and Robinson will outproduce him as far as efficiency goes, but McCaffrey's just going to be peppered with that volume. Is just as long as his body can stay with it and stay healthy. He's definitely a guy I'm certainly investing in.
I do like the Trevor call, Schultzy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we move on real quick, Chev, do you have your stat yet? Your Genty stat?
Oh, it won't. It only goes back to 2018 for yards after contact. Okay. So that's the list.
Because I have one, and that is taking out Dylan Sampson's 65 total carries. Ashton Genty was lowest in the league of yards before contact per attempt at 0.53 yards before contact.
Yeah.
My God.
I would also like to throw out what these guys averaged. So that list, it is the list, by the way. Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. All of those guys in order, 385 PPR points. That's Saquon's rookie year. But like the next year, they come back 330 fantasy points, 294 fantasy points, 280 fantasy points for Bijan in 2024, 226 fantasy points for Najee, 219 for Nick Chubb, and only 171 for Josh Jacobs, but that was in 13 games. So, yeah, the future is bright. And if you hire an actual offensive mind and put together an actual coaching staff, he's going to be one of those elite fantasy running backs.
Awesome.
Big if. We're counting on Mark Davis.
I know.
That is true. He does have a bowl cut, and he is paying 4 coaches to not coach for him.
All right. So now let's get into the next award. So CMC takes that one, and he's going to be nominated again in this one. And this is your Dynasty Sell High of the Year. This award goes to the player whose dynasty value may never be higher than it is right now. Their production in 2025 was real, but the big question is sustainability. This isn't about calling a bad player bad. It's about market timing. And the first one we have up here is Kyron Williams. He delivered another strong season on the ground, finishing with 1,200 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns on 259 carries, plus 281 receiving yards, career highs in scores from scrimmage, and a heavy role in the Rams offense. But dynasty managers have started debating his long-term workload. Blake Corum emerged, especially late in the season here, and it was way more efficient. So is his, value at the high point right now? Next guy, Christian McCaffrey. We talked about him in depth here. Is he sustainable? He's 29 years old. He'd be entering his 30th year. There's going to be some question marks there. And then Wan'Dale Robinson, is it sustainable? He exploded in 2025. I talked about him in the earlier segment. 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's going to be entering free agency, coming off an historic season in a struggling offense. His future role and target share might be uncertain, making him the possible highest draft value he will ever be. And then if you guys have somebody else to nominate in this category, please feel free to nominate them. Now, Bigz, do you have a guy on this list that I mentioned that you feel strongly about being the sell high of the year?
Not anybody that I feel confident about, but I feel like Wan'Dale has to be, out of these 3, he's got to be the guy to go. I am constantly, every season, I downplay Kyron Williams, and every season he makes me look like a fool. McCaffrey, he likely won't have as big a year next year as he did this year, but Wan'Dale is the guy that is, he's a short yardage guy, high target volume. We look for those targets, but he's also going to have 156 or so targets in competition from Malik Neighbors coming back healthy next year. So if you can find somebody to take Wan'Dale and believe that he's going to sustain this level of production, jump on it.
All right, Schultzy, who you got as your sell high of the year?
Yeah, this one, I guess, I'm with Biggs. It's a little tough. My gut also is kind of screaming Kyron at me. The way Blake Corum looked, the efficiency numbers were there, but like eye test wise, he just looked really good. I think we're definitely, next year's got to be the year they're pushing Corum out on the field more. But I don't know, man. Maybe depends on what happens with Wan'Dale and free agency. But I don't know. This kind of screams like he's gonna get a bag and just like someone's gonna pay him to like be a big producer, and that's just not who that guy is. And I think I'm gonna go Wan'Dale as well.
Bingo, bango. All right, there, Chev. Are you on the Wan'Dale train, or do you have another guy that you feel strongly about here?
Oh yeah, it's Wan'Dale for me. Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Coach, you on the Wan'Dale train too?
Hey, my sell high, it's somebody not even on the list. I am getting out as much as I can. Requisite share in other formats, but in Dynasty, I'm going to see what I can do to get out of the Jalen Hurts business. I see things going in the wrong direction for him. He was a player who I was trying to tear down to Drake May, and I'm in a league, $200 league, where the guy went to UNC. No shot. He loved the offer. I sent him an offer where I was cashing out of Jalen Hurts. I was on the plus side. It was May and plus coming my way. And the guy liked the deal, but he's like, hey, man, I'm UNC. But here nor there, Jalen Hurts, I think this is right now where they don't ring the bell at the top. I want to see a great playoff run, even if it's 2 games. I want to see the Jalen Hurts of old for at least 2 games. If they go on a deep run, even better. I want to get out because structurally, if you're watching the games, things are falling apart. There was somebody who made a post where they're like, did I just watch the same football game? Like, there's no way that the quarterbacks in this night game are playing the same football game that Jalen Hurts just played. There are things that are really breaking down. A lot of times, Jalen Hurts has really gotten away with being able to rush his way, push his way out of things. A lot of things went right last year with Saquon Barkley. We saw some spike weeks with A.J. Brown, but I think there's fractures there. So if we have a diminished element in Philadelphia, I want to get out, and you know how fickle it can be in Philadelphia, how quickly they can turn. I'm going to do what I can to tear out of Jalen Hurts as much as it hurts me, because I was on him from the jump, on his ascension. But at this point, I think you want to get max value and at least cut shares of Jalen Hurts. So he would be my dynasty sell high, and I can get the most out of him as well.
I did think of somebody else. Lamar Jackson is losing his head coach, and he's losing Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator. There was a thing with Lamar where some of us were like sold on his arm. We didn't have a problem with the way he plays football and throws the ball. But the amount that he runs, there were some questions. How long is that going to be sustainable? And this was the first year that really it was like nagging injuries, a back injury. He missed a lot of time. He's losing his head coach. I don't know if you could call it a sell high just because he had a down year. But I think it's getting to the point where we're starting to see that wear and tear can happen. If he changes his tack as a quarterback and stops running quite so much with a new offensive system, and he becomes more of a pocket passer, I do believe in his arm, but I don't think he can be the Lamar Jackson that we've seen at this point in his career.
Interesting. All right. I like your bring up there, coach. I like that a lot. I'm gonna go Jalen Hurts. Is anybody switching to Jalen, or
Yes.
either three? Chev, you're switching it up.
Yeah, I'll switch to Jalen Hurts.
Okay, I like that call. Anything else to add to that, there, Chev? Why that switched your mind, or just because you just brought up a really good point?
I mean, those are all really excellent points that I was kind of feeling myself. Like, as much as I agree with that, I disagree with everything Bigz just said about Lamar Jackson, but that's a different story for a different day. So,
okay, well, we'll make that a whole show.
So Grindberg, see what you can get us back for Jalen Hurts and Omega.
Okay, certainly will. Okay, so Jalen Hurts is the dynasty sell high of the year. Great bring up there, Coach. Now let's get into some other ones here, and that is the biggest dynasty disappointment. This award goes to the player who hurt your roster compared to expectation in 2025, whether it was performance regression, injury, or role stagnation. These guys simply didn't live up to their dynasty hype. At wide receiver, a couple of them here. We have Justin Jefferson, drafted as a high-end wide receiver one, expected to be a weekly anchor, and Jefferson finally saw his value take a deep dive in 2025. A stretch of disappointment, quarterback play, and erratic efficiency. He was well below his expectations. And then there was Brian Thomas Jr. coming off a breakout rookie season. He was drafted as a high-end wide receiver one option in many leagues. Instead, he regressed badly in 2025. And then we got to bring up Saquon Barkley coming off the RB1 finish in 2024. Massive year, landing in a dream situation with that Philly O-line, but 2025, his decline, it showed. It brought underwhelming efficiency, fewer fantasy points than anticipated, and his yardage and yards per carry was the worst we've seen in years. And if there's anybody else you think could be on this, but I think those three guys are, pretty obvious picks here. Bigz, who do you got?
Well, I'm looking at Saquon dropping 120 points year over year, going from RB2 in PPR to RB14. But in looking at what has been happening, I was going to bring up Kenneth Walker, but He didn't really drop too much in performance. I think Kenneth Walker is the guy that we all want to count on, and we wind up, if you get Kenneth Walker, you usually wind up overdrafting him or paying too much for him, and he just doesn't deliver. But I'm going to go with Saquon.
Saquon, cool. All right, there, Schultzy. Who's your guy that you feel strongly about as your biggest disappointment?
Well, I mean, I've talked a ton about how I feel about Brian Thomas this season, getting the yips and dropping all the passes in the world. However, I'm going to go off script here I'm going to say Jaden Daniels. This was a lot of people's dynasty QB1 heading into this season. And sure, the injuries were there, but even when he wasn't hurt, like, he was just fine. He had one top 12 positional finish when he was healthy. People, like I said, chalk this guy up as the dynasty QB1, and we had not even close to that return because of injury and performance. So Jaden Daniels for me, man.
Good points. Chev, who do you feel strongly about?
JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. Okay. JJ McCarthy. Yeah. That's a pretty strong one. Absolutely. That is a direct reflection to Justin Jefferson. Yeah.
So Justin Jefferson finished with 12 less targets than he had last year, but 500 less yards. And that's mostly due to JJ McCarthy only averaging about 4.3 air yards per attempt, only having 20 completions total in 10 games of 20 plus yards or more, and only 3 completions of 40 yards or 50 yards. And that's, it's just, it was as bad as it could possibly be. I mean, this was a guy who just needs more time to develop. He clearly was not, I don't know if he just he's a reps guy or what, but yeah, it was JJ McCarthy because there was so much certainty around what he was based on projection and not actually watching him play football.
All right, Coach, who do you got?
It's funny on JJ McCarthy. He was anointed to be Joe Burrow, and that dopamine hit of people thinking that way, massive disappointment. When I look at the 3 players on the board, what stands out to me, I can't sit here and talk on the other vein about Justin Jefferson being a disappointment because that is a structural issue. It's more tied to what happened with JJ McCarthy. I can't pin any of that on Justin Jefferson. Same way as I talked to you about how there's some fractures with the Eagles, I can't pin so much onto Saquon Barkley. The guy who I can pin on who had good structure still would be Brian Thomas Jr. That's on this card. He's the guy who is the biggest disappointment. I love what Mac Jones did, and I think he unlocked some things that maybe Trevor Lawrence didn't do in BTJ's rookie season. But here nor there, it's year 2. You can't sit there and blame Trevor Lawrence for Brian Thomas Jr.'s faults in year 2. Maybe year 1 you could talk about you needed more from Trevor Lawrence, but we saw how great Trevor Lawrence was this year, and something is really off from Brian Thomas Jr. The thing that is a bummer is we like to do this exercise of, has this player forgotten about football, yes or no? And if we say no, then we like to buy in on them that next year because you got 2 years, one great, one bad. With Brian Thomas Jr., this is kind of like mentality, like Chuck Knobloch in baseball, if people remember. He just couldn't throw from second to first, the yips. There's some kind of yips that was happening with Brian Thomas Jr. It's really hurtful because he could take a 54-yarder, 80-yarder anytime. But I want to go to Schultzy. If I got to vote, great call out on Jaden Daniels because you had him in your keeper leagues. You had Jaden Daniels from the value you got him last year. And if you were in startups all off season, you were taking him in those top 3 picks. It was Allen, Daniels, Lamar, and not necessarily in that order, right? And I have to key in on more disappointment from Jaden Daniels because you were just bankrupt from a fantasy points lens. This isn't even whether Jaden Daniels is good or not. You were bankrupted from having him on your Jaden Daniels squad. So I got to give a hat tip. If it's the guys on the screen, it's Brian Thomas Jr., but my vote for being inventive as well and sharp, I got to give that to Schultzy on Jaden Daniels.
That would be my pick too. He brought him up. Jaden Daniels sunk a lot of my ships and my hopes this year, especially in some dynasty leagues and startups and stuff like that, because I drafted him as a high premium pick and it just didn't end up panning out. And it really actually made me rethink the way I'm moving forward. And Chev, we talked about it when it was just you and I on the Pulse a couple weeks ago, just the way I'm going to rethink the way I'm going to be drafting quarterbacks moving forward and, being very cautious of premium draft capital because Jaden Daniels came and bit me quite a few times this year, as did Anthony Richardson a couple of years ago. So love that call there, Schultzy. So biggest disappointment in fantasy dynasty is Jaden Daniels. All right, let's get to our last award here, guys. Banger of a show. Keep it up. And this is going to be the most valuable dynasty asset. This award goes to the player who combined elite production, good value, positional importance. This isn't just about who scored the most points. It's about who you can build your roster off of. Let's talk about Drake May. He emerged as a true franchise quarterback in 2025, 4,200 yards, 30-plus touchdowns, elite efficiency, and his maturation into a reliable passer and high floor, long runaway makes him a dynasty cornerstone at the position. And then at wide receiver, we got Jackson Smith-Njigba, capped his historic 2025, leading the NFL in receiving yards with 1,700, almost 1,800 yards, 120 receptions, 10 touchdowns, making him one of the most dominant wideouts in the league as a young star. At tight end, Trey McBride, he rewrote the tight end record books in 2025, 119 receptions, 1,200 yards almost, and 11 touchdowns, becoming one of the most productive pass catchers in the NFL, period. Wide receiver, 3 overall, if you were going to, compare apples to apples. Incredible stuff from a tight end. And then obviously we talked in depth about Christian McCaffrey. Maybe not a long-term stake in Dynasty, but completely was an MVP, especially with the bounce-back season, finished as the RB1 overall. And if you guys have a dark horse in this race, let me know. Bigz, who do you got?
I'm going to go with May. I have a ton of Drake May. That it was the Josh Allen light comp, and they finished right behind him in fantasy this year. So he's got to be my pick. JSN is definitely a runner up. But
finish right behind him is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh Allen Light got finished behind him. All right, let's get into your Schultzy. Who do you got as your pick?
Man, there's a lot of great candidates here, but if we're talking about like you had in the sheet here, player who combined elite production with long-term value and positional importance, give me Trey McBride. Absolutely smashed it this year. We got the touchdowns we were expecting. Tight end 1 finish. He's still young. We've got a lot of traction left on this here. And when you talk about positional value, I mean, I don't know the exact numbers here, but the gap from 1 to 2 tight end was the same as the gap from 2 to tight end 23 or something insane. Like he blew everybody out of the water. He's young. Tight end 1 finish. Give me Trey McBride.
I like to call outside of one minor factor with Trey McBride is his week 16 performance. So if you had him, you would have had to have overcome a monster because of the dud there. But I agree with that. I mean, Trey McBride's a great call. Chev, who do you got as your MVP in Dynasty this year?
Gotta go Drake May. Gotta go Drake May. There were some tremendous performances by everybody on the screen. Christian McCaffrey bouncing back, JSN, being, threatening the receiving record for like the first 12 or 13 weeks of the season and never finishing with less than 11 fantasy points throughout that whole deal through the first 13 weeks, I want to say it was, and Trey McBride rewriting the record books and just being a position separator. But it's Drake May. I mean, let's just reflect on how just absolutely unbelievable he was this year. So we were talking about just a completely broken system, and now he goes from, hey, he might be pretty good if he can get to like, he's probably going to win an MVP this year. Like, they go from worst to first. I mean, it almost mirrors Peyton Manning's rookie transition to his second year, but he was better than Peyton Manning as a rookie, and he was giving you casual rushing floor that people seem to forget about. So he only finished with 129 less yards than Josh Allen. He's just not going to give you the same amount of touchdowns, but he's so good. He's the best deep ball thrower in the league right now in his second year. So imagine if they add a guy like George Pickens to that fold with, now he goes from having 32-year-old Stephon Diggs being his best receiver to a guy who's literally unguardable in, contested catch situations, 15 yards or more down the field and outside the numbers. So if they continue to add to the weapons cabinet, I mean, we could be talking about 5,040 that we were approaching with Patrick Mahomes, or, the 5,038 that Justin Herbert threw for his second year. So it's Drake May for me.
Love it. Love it. Coach, what do you got?
Hey, just so everybody knows, Schultzy loves a great young tight end. So to just file that away. It's Drake May. And the beauty is, if we want to add on to those weapons, how about Justin Jolie? A little bit in those mid rounds too. Pair him with some Hunter Henry. I'll be very happy with that. It's got to be Drake May. And he made that ascension. One of my calls, probably one of my best calls of the offseason, was that Drake May would usurp into the Burrow and Hurts tier. And now he even jumped them. So he even outpaced that projection. And we saw it coming, and you had faith in it. If you had overexposure, you were great. I'm very happy about Drake May. And a player who you say, hey, a 45-yard handoff. Like, not many people have that acronym for them, or that nickname, that moniker, right? And it's crazy. The Saints game, I remember he threw a 60-yard laser, dropped it. There was a penalty. And then on the very next play, he threw the exact same laser, a deep bomb, and he really threw it on a rope. And it's just so funny. A 40-yarder, a 50-yarder handoff. That type of conviction, that kind of moniker that you can gain in reputation for yourself. Absolutely the Dynasty MVP, especially when you factor in position-wise in Superflex. That way, it really just does carry and matter more there. So, yeah, I got to give it to Drake May. Great argument, though, for Trey McBride, Schultzy.
Yeah, Drake May is my guy as well, and I'm looking forward to seeing him alongside Jordan Tyson and Mike Evans next year. That's going to be a really formidable pass catching unit. So look for that. No, I'm just joking. But Drake May is obviously my pick here as well, guys. And we've been talking about him on all our shows, whether doesn't matter what network you're talking about. We've all been talking about Drake May, steaming him up for a couple of years now, and there's good reason behind it. So awesome, guys. Great show. Let's just recap these awards real quick. And we gave out a bunch. So as far as the Dynasty Breakout of the Year, we gave that one to Caleb Williams. And future face of the league, that one went to Ashton Genty. Bounce back player of the year went to Christian McCaffrey, finishing as RB1. The Dynasty Sell High of the Year was a dark horse pick in Jalen Hurts. The biggest Dynasty disappointment went as another dark horse, came in here as Jaden Daniels. We then went to the MVP, and it ended up being Drake May. So great show, guys. Appreciate it, everybody. Go
Roster
ahead.
Clogger Award goes to Jerry Jeudy, and Trade Target of the Year goes to Chase Brown.
I could respect that. Yeah, totally. All right, boys. It's been a great show. Great season on the Pulse. Look for us. We're going to continue to be giving you guys content all year round. Every week our show is going to stay on, and we may not have all five of us at the same time, but we will certainly all be here at some point this off season weekly. And be sure to check us out, because we're going to be bringing in our guests again probing the experts. So I'll be on the lookout for the experts, and we're going to be probing.
There is no off season in Dynasty Fantasy, and we've got a whole bunch of content coming up with rookie scouting. Chev and I are going to be down at the Senior Bowl. I will have my cameras rolling. We will be interviewing players, which is my favorite part of it, both on the field and at the player availability. And then I will be at the combine. I will be at the draft. We have a ton of content coming at you. And hey, if you are over here from the Fantasy Forecast because you saw the show and I invited you to come start playing Dynasty Fantasy Football and watching the Dynasty Pulse, go ahead and let us know in the comments.
Love it. All right, folks. We're going to be here all off season, so be sure to check us out, like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And from all of us on FSAN and the Dynasty Pulse, we hope
we're going to help you win.
Peace.